What's going on? Good to see you. Good day, Rowdy. Yeah, so today got some more updates on Sascha Riley. Some people have put some interesting pieces together and also interviewed the whatever superior rank person in the military that knew that he was in that video and had talked to him about it because somebody else had gotten in trouble. And yeah, Michael Cohen definitely being sus. I got a tip from who was it, Basebot, about that on Blue Sky. So I'm gonna look into that too. Like he totally lied about the whole about his knowledge and involvement in the Epstein thing. And he got caught in it big time. And every time he's questioned on it, he just flips out on people. So that's going to be interesting to check out too. First, while I'm waiting for the stream to get going a little bit, I want to follow up on this issue that I covered yesterday with the protest that took place in Minneapolis and that guy, Jake Lang. We were looking at the videos and photos, and the situation was really chaotic, and it was hard to see what was going on. But there's two interesting things that I learned after the whole situation. One is just this whole ironic chain of events where he was, this guy, he was a literal Nazi, like self-proclaimed, and he was doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like planning to run from the city hall through the Somalian neighborhood, zig heiling and everything. But he never got off the steps of City Hall. And he was saved by a black man. And then he ended up hopping in the car that a trans woman was driving in, and her and her friend saved him and then ended up dropping him off a block or two away when they found out who he was. But still, it's just extremely ironic. And this video here, this like 40-second clip, makes it very clear that this dude totally saved his ass. And there are a bunch of different takes on it, and I have kind of an interest.
Just go. Let him go, y'all. Let him go.
You can see how that dude just like pushing him, like escorting him out and preventing people from grabbing him. So then when he finally does escape, this random car was driving down the street and he jumps in there.
Oh my God. Drive. Oh my God. Just drive. Stop. Why? Let them go. Let them go. Hey, pull over. Hey, leave it. Get out of here. Leave it up. No. Y'all just let him leave.
And like, they're probably like, what the hell? Because so many people are just shouting different things.
Hey!
We don't know him. Stop it.
Let him out.
We got his back!
So then later that day, this video was posted.
Let me
from the car.
Apparently, I'm sure a lot of you guys do know about, but I had never heard of him. We see him run up to our car and he's like, "Can I please get in? Like, they hurt me so bad, da 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 da." That's all the context we have. So in our heads, it's like, oh my God, like, was he just attacked by ICE? Like,
we thought ICE was after him, so we're like, okay, whatever, like, hop in the freaking car real quick. And then all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of people coming here and storming us and, like, beating up the car, ruining the car, pulling this dude out. Like, what is going on?
Surrounding the car from every single angle. And yeah, we had no idea what we was getting ourselves into. It's just like, we saw an injured man, so like, obviously we're gonna help because we're not bad people. What? And I don't know him. And so, yeah. Anyways, he gets in our car. Like, yeah, surrounded us. They broke her tail light. Was banging on the car, whatnot. They tried to rip him out the door. Like, they was like opening the door and shit. Wild. And so we do drive because like we're not gonna, like, literally the longer we sat there, the longer he fought them off and the more damage was happening to Aaliyah's car. So we had to leave with him in the car. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Don't fuck with him.
I was leaving.
Yeah, but also when we can't just, like, you know, like, what else are we supposed to do? He's not gonna, like, let us kick him out the car. He's not gonna get out. So like that was our only option at that point.
So we literally just go around the block, and I'm like, you know what? Like, you need to get out.
Yeah, we're still in
like,
the same
what
spot.
is going on? Like, whose side are you on right now? Because like, this is not okay.
So this other part gets pretty interesting too, because apparently while he was in the car, he said, like, I owe Trump, I had to do this. And that's what they say when I unpause it. And that leads me to believe that there's a chance that he got the call and was like, go down there and start some shit. You're my riot guy. I pardoned you. I got you out of jail. I need you to stir things up. So listen to what they say.
And I'm just getting super weird, bad vibe from this dude. And he's just like, oh, Trump something me. I gotta owe him back. And I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't care what Trump did for you. Like, ICE is fucking shit. Like, who are you? Like, who are you? And then I find out who he is. I'm like, I don't care if your Uber's here. You're not gonna wait in my fucking car. You need to get out right now.
As fuck. Like, we was not fucking having it.
Like, this is not okay.
That is such a wild situation. Just how that whole thing went down. And there's people arguing about like whether the one guy who led him out did the right thing or not. And like, I don't think it matters, because overall it was a success in the sense that he got ran out of town. It was expressed that that kind of shit was unacceptable. And there wasn't a situation that happened that they were able to create a bunch of bad press about and have another propaganda event that they could use to, invoke the Insurrection Act, which was the goal. And they still may do that anyway. But I still think that is quite interesting. And yeah, just the irony of it, like all the people he hates saved his ass, and not even intentionally in the last case. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up on that, because we were watching all the clips yesterday separately and chaotically trying to figure out what was going on. And yeah, I was able to make a little bit more sense of it today. So let's take a look at this Michael Cohen situation. So Michael Cohen used to be Trump's fixer for a very long time, and for the early days of his first presidency, I believe, as well. And he is most famous for paying off Stormy Daniels, which I think might be the reason why he went to jail. We could look up shortly, like, what the specific reason was that he initially went to jail for Trump. But he ended up basically, like, falling on the sword for Trump. And ever since he's gotten out of prison, he's been one of these anti-Trump guys, which always happens when he gets in a fight with one of his friends, which is exactly why Epstein was beefing with him and stuff, because they were, you don't end a friendship on good terms with Trump. I don't think. I just think that that's probably how it works. But yeah. He ever since he's been like a left-wing kind of, not left-wing, liberal podcaster. And he's been one of them, like, conservative liberals, though. I mean, they're mostly conservative. But he's been clearly anti-Trump most of the time until all this Epstein shit started happening. And then he started getting really, really weird. He was interviewed by Tara Palmieri, I think. And this was months ago, I think. It was when the Epstein files first started to heat up. and she asked him a couple questions, and he ended up revealing something pretty wild uh, in that line of questioning without even realizing it. Because she started asking about Trump's involvement with Epstein and started asking about Katie Johnson, who was the accuser that said that she was assaulted by Trump and Epstein, and that she kind of disappeared right when she was about to make some kind of press conference. And when Cohen was asked about that, he got super defensive and he was like, she didn't even exist. She was fake. Uh, we traced her back to this address and it didn't even exist. She gave us the address for, or she gave her lawyers the address for an empty lot. And she was like, hold up. Why were you trying to track her down? Like, were you trying to silence her, or what was the deal there? And then he like blew up on her. And ever since then, which was like 6 months ago, he's blown up on anybody who has tried to ask him about Epstein. And now more recently, he's been discovered in the Epstein files. I don't know how this got tracked down like a month after any have been released, but while he was trying to get out of jail, his lawyers contacted the prosecutors, I'm assuming, we'll probably read it in a minute, and told them that he had information on Trump and Epstein. So let's take a look at this. This was the top post, I think, that went viral. Yeah. So breaking news, the Epstein files just blew a hole in Michael Cohen's story. What Ellie Leonard has just uncovered is explosive, and it demands answers now. For years, Michael Cohen has gone on TV, gone on podcast, under oath, said the same thing. He knows nothing about the Epstein files, never heard of them, never discussed them, never spoke with Donald Trump about Epstein. Except now there's an internal letter involving the U.S. Department of Justice that tells a very different story. According to the document, in 2019, Cohen was prepared to provide testimony tied to Epstein and Trump. Testimony significant enough that a Rule 35 was discussed. That is not nothing. That is not, yeah. So Rule 35 implies substance. I gotta see what a Rule 35 is, but I think that's like a, you're gonna snitch on somebody, I'm guessing. If Cohen truly had nothing, there would be nothing to negotiate. Cohen needs to come forward and tell the truth. Let's see what the so this was from the emails. Mike Monaco and Barry Spevak called on behalf of Cohen. They asked whether we would file a Rule 35 and requested a meeting to discuss it. I asked what changed since then, and we told them on April 17th that we did not intend to file such a motion. They said that Cohen has heard Trump say things about Epstein, but would not get into the details at this time about what those were. They then attempted to rehash our April 17th conversation about Rule 35 and asked for specifics about what Cohen had done to undermine his credibility. I said I would consider whether we were willing to provide more specifics. So this has come out. Let's see what this is. In addition to... Cohen reportedly helped settle a number of cases against Trump, not just Stormy Daniels. WMR received a list from a reputable Republican source of these settlement claims, all of which involve male and female minors that he has assaulted. Michael Parker, Kelly Fuhrer, Charles Bacon, Rebecca Conway. These are 10, 12, 11, 13 years old. Where is this coming from? I don't know if that's legit. I do want to see what else he has done for Trump as a fixer, though. And let me put on this video of him being confronted by a couple people. This was the journalist that originally kind of cracked him on this a couple months ago, which, I mean, it was kind of obvious because, he was Trump's fixer during this time, but she was the first person to really question him on it.
when he was President Trump's fixer, when he was dealing with the Karen McDougal case and the Stormy Daniels case, and he was the one who was dealing with the women who were coming forward with the counts of sexual harassment, he denied it.
I have no knowledge of anything with Jeffrey Epstein. Zero.
So somebody else handled the Jeffrey Epstein.
I didn't handle it. I didn't handle it.
Then, after some pressing, he finally cracked, admitting that there was one case that he dealt with involving an infant Jane Doe.
As far as the only case that I was involved with was a Jane Doe, an infant, by and through.
He admits that later, like after he first said that there was no involvement.
Her mom, Mary Jane Doe, right, as legal guardian. That case was dismissed not because of anything that I spoke to the lawyers, and I've talked about this a million times. I turn around and I receive this summons and a complaint, and the averments in it are awful. They're despicable. It talks about basically rape of an underage female, claiming and alleging that Donald was involved in it and all that other nonsense. I ended up taking a private investigator and trying to find out who this person was. And we went to the address that allegedly this minor lived at in.
She's like, but yeah, he's like straight up admitting this. And I don't even think he realizes what he's walking into at this point. This was like 6 months ago.
The Bronx. Well, lo and behold, the investigator responds back and says the only thing that's there is an empty parking lot.
Ever since we did that interview, Michael Cohen has trashed me for asking the hard questions that no one else was willing to ask. But here's the thing. The reason that I asked him to come on my show and the reason that I wanted to hear from him is that he kept going on TV and he kept saying that he just knows that President Trump had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't believe that Donald Trump was on Epstein's island. Why? He said it more than 5-6 times, and he says it very openly.
Can tell from his voice. He just knows from knowing him, but didn't give any real evidence. And none of the journalists that I saw interviewing him on TV actually asked any follow-up questions. And I felt like I had to do it. I just find it hard to believe that at no point during the time that you worked for him, you never spoke to him about Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
When this guy, Brad Edwards, who is just a lawyer,
I don't know who he is.
Was like, it's infamous that they hate each other. Like that's why
I'm sure they do hate each other. I'm just telling you, I have no idea.
But there's a reason why my gut was right. This latest file shows that he believed that his information was so valuable that they should discuss, quote, Rule 35, okay? For those who don't know what Rule 35 is, and frankly, I didn't know what it was either until I did some research, it allows the government to file a motion to reduce a sentence if a defendant provides substantial assistance in investigating or prosecuting another person. So basically, he wanted to be a witness, so a star witness to the prosecutors. He wanted to be...
I'm going to jump ahead to his recent blow up, which you can see right here.
Here is Cohen's explanation for what this email means.
It all started with Tara Palmieri when she asked me a question about the Jane Doe case that was dismissed. And I said,
this is this week after the email came out that we just looked at.
I said to her the facts.
Why did your lawyers submit that letter saying, in essence, Michael knows a lot of stuff here on Trump?
Well, no. That's not what the letter says. What the letter says is that that there's information that he can give. The information is exactly what I'm telling you about, which is the Jane Doe case.
That was the information that you said you could provide on Jane Doe.
Correct.
But let's not forget that Cohen told me back in August that the story of the Jane Doe was bullshit.
He told me it was bullshit. Take care of it. I said, okay.
So how could that information be so valuable to the feds in 2019 that he could request Rule 35, meaning that his information was so substantial to another case that it would reduce his sentence? Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how I have anything to do with it. I'm just asking questions. I just hope Michael Cohen will come clean and tell us what he knows, because this isn't about...
Yeah, so I think we should look a bit into some of the other things he was involved in, because I think it's pretty obvious here that he knows more than he has let on. And yeah, I've heard some things about him paying off other people and him making other things disappear for Trump, which I'm sure he did quite frequently. And if he did this in cases like Stormy Daniels, for example, which he went to jail for, then why wouldn't he be doing it in other cases as well? Let's take a look at this article here. This is from GBH, which seemed to be at the top of the results. What even is this? I think it's a British thing, perhaps. Let's see, though. This was interesting in this, though. That wasn't the only questionable work that Cohen did for Trump, though. He also laid out how he worked in conjunction with David Pecker, the CEO of American Media Inc., which publishes the National Enquirer, to catch and kill potentially damaging stories about Trump by paying sources for exclusive rights to their stories and then never publishing those stories. The practices went far beyond paying former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who also claimed she had an affair with Trump and was paid $150,000 by AMI shortly after Trump won the GOP nomination in 2016. Trump has denied McDougal's allegations. There were other unverified stories that Pecker, a Trump ally, worked to bury such as possible Trump love child and a rumored videotape of a fight between Melania Trump and the future president in an elevator. Of course, Cohen said it was untrue, but he's been saying that about everything. Still, Cohen said that the Trumps were very worried about the treasure trove of documents Pecker had accumulated over the years that predated even Cohen's time working for president. Wow, this is an angle that I have not even thought about yet, because the National Enquirer is a very important piece in Trump's whole career. That's like this tabloid, but he was very good friends with the owner of that from the very early days. So he has had favorable coverage with them, but they've also been doing this catch and kill thing for him where they buy stories and then don't publish them. But if they were to be doing that, then they would have likely collected a ton of blackmail on him over the years, which is quite interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just checking up on the chat real quick. Yeah, and the fact that he admitted that he had a private investigator track down Katie Johnson is pretty messed up. Is the Catch and Kill book by Ronan Farrow about this? I think I remember getting that on audio way back in the day. This is another article that from back in the day. David Pecker, former publisher from the National Enquirer, took the stand for a second day of testimony. Pecker explained that starting in 2015, he, Michael Cohen, and Donald Trump had a deal involved with the National Enquirer. Yeah, that's explaining that. Prosecution also, okay. Nothing new there. Very interesting deal, though. Let's see if there's any news stories about this. There wasn't this morning when I checked. It was just just her podcast was pretty much and a couple of posts. Let's see what the conversation is in the Epstein Reddit here. A lot of people, I think, just doubting Cohen. Yeah, and giving her props for actually asking him that. He's like on one of the top like liberal podcasts or something, isn't he? It's wild. They're just like, yeah, we'll take you. So, all right. Now let's get into Sascha Riley. I think I hit a dead end on that, but this week is going to be bad for Michael Cohen, I think. So we're probably going to have more to talk about him there. So Sascha Riley is a very interesting case. It's one that people are having a hard time with because the allegations are the most extreme that have come out about Trump and Epstein. And there are also some timeline discrepancies and some things like that. But I don't really think that that's a deal breaker because, it's definitely hard to pinpoint every exact time frame for every memory that you have when you're in abusive situations. Memories often fragmented and things like that. So so it's not within, and it's within the realm of possibility that some things are mistaken from time to time. And his his story has been consistent through many years. He didn't just come out with this out of nowhere. And he was also saying this during Biden's term when it seemed like Trump was never going to return to office. Um, there are also some new developments that I think start to at least support some of his most serious allegations and some of the most extreme things. He, accused Trump of just torturing animals for fun and all sorts of terrible things. And he said he was in snuff films. Um, and one of the very extreme things is he said that he kind of like, put a stake in Trump's ass quite literally and in a very gruesome way. You know what I mean? That to the fact that where like surgery was needed. And apparently there's some support for that. I won't say confirmation, but I will say support. Um, and that's just happened in the past couple days. There's a lot of claims that he has made about his father being a pilot, which is accurate. He claims that his father has flown Epstein's plane. That has not been confirmed, but he was a pilot. So I mean, what we do, we were able to track down a pilot's license. So there is that. But let's see what we got here. This one was actually sent to me by I See All of You in a comment earlier. I hadn't seen this. I had seen the doctor update, but one of the other things about Sasha is that they were in various types of terrible films when they were a child, and that one of these films was seen by superiors when they were in the army. So there is actually a record of that, and somebody interviewed this officer, this high-ranking I'm not good with my military ranks. I screwed up a title last week, and one of y'all called me out on it. But yeah, I'd like to get
I just had a conversation with Sascha Riley's first sergeant, and you're not going to want to miss it. First and foremost,
first sergeant, that's it.
while he did allow his name to be used in this, he has asked for privacy from the media. He does not want to be contacted. He's already been contacted by Snopes. So please don't bug him. Michael Bayless, retired U.S. Army. I introduced myself and asked if he would confirm that he was the commanding officer at Fort Carson. He corrected me that he was the first sergeant, not the commanding officer. I asked if he would confirm the existence of the video mentioned. He asked where I got Mendenhall's name because he didn't hear it in the podcast, but it's in there. He said, as first sergeant, you don't get privy to things like that. I did not see the video, but was in the room when the commander asked him if he was in a video. I'm not sure the commander saw the video. I cannot confirm that. Riley, I assume, saw it. I did not. I would have remembered it. Is this for your Facebook page? I see several videos focusing on this. Do you think it will make network news? The Sasha stuff, I mean. I said, thank you. I'm an educator as well, and will do everything I can to stop this kind of thing from existing in the.
So yeah, this is apparently the sergeant that he had in the military that saw this this video. So and now Sasha is also saying that they'll testify and take polygraph and all sorts of stuff like that. So even though these accusations are very extreme, there is a person out there saying these things, willing to go on the record, and there are enough things that line up for it to be taken seriously and an actual investigation into it to happen.
This world. He mentioned that the podcast is disturbing and he didn't know about any of it. I asked if I could share this and said that I'm followed by some media folks, so it might get some traction. He said he didn't want his name to be in the news, and I explained that I understand and recommended he made his page private. We talked, he said he heard from Snopes and has already answered some questions from them. And then he asked if I had to use his name to post. And I said, in order for it to have any credibility, I would have to, but I could also say that you've asked for privacy. I made sure that his page was private before I posted, and we ended our conversation.
So, yeah, she's asking for people to respect his privacy, and, you know, which is understandable because people get a little bit wild. I'm glad that she was able to have this conversation with him and get this on record. This was apparently the name that that Sasha put out in that interview. It was like 5 hours that we went through, so I can't remember every name, but people are verifying this. So that's it's just another wild thing lining up. And then I saw this, which kind of tripped me out. Wait, where is it? Is it the wrong one? No. Here it is. That's the next one. So look at this. From 1980 to 2018, Donald Trump had a primary care doctor who specializes in specializes as a gastroenterologist. Dr. Bornstein had his office raided in 2017, where officials took all of Trump's medical records. He later passed away in 2021 due to undisclosed reasons. We gotta look this guy up in a minute. What's this say? Oh, okay, that has Wikipedia entries that we can look up ourselves. Let's see. Because this would go along with that story that he caused this injury. And like I said, this is the, like, it's not the most extreme, like, you know, the things that Trump is accused of doing to other people in those recordings are more extreme than what Sasha allegedly did to him. But at the same time, for some reason, that's the one that's the hardest to believe. It's easier to believe that Trump is hurting animals and just for fun and stuff like that than it is to think he has been walking around all these years after something like that. But let's take a look at this guy. Gastroenterologist. Trump's personal physician. Response to questions about his health, Trump asked Bernstein to issue a full medical report, predicting that it would show perfection. 2 days later, Bornstein signed the letter full of superlatives, saying that Trump's laboratory results are astonishingly excellent. He was the healthiest individual ever. So yeah, I remember this coming out. This was like very much like a propaganda report, and I just figured he's got this guy paid off. Speaking to the New York Times in February 2017, revealed that he was invited to attend President Trump's inauguration. On May 1st, 2018, Bernstein told NBC News that 3 Trump representatives had raided his office, taking all of Trump's medical records. He said he felt frightened and sad over the event. He identified 2 of them as Trump's longtime bodyguard and Trump's organization's chief legal officer. 2 days later, he told the reporter that Trump took a prescription hair growth medicine, Propecia, after which Trump cut ties with him. I mean, is that all that he knew? You know? This is, I mean, the fact that he is a gastroenterologist and he was Trump's main guy it does tell you something. I mean, my main doctor that I go to is an oncologist because I've had cancer. So I mean, you still need a primary care provider, but I never see them. So like something probably wrong with his gut, you know, or some kind of intestine situation. So that I did not expect these kind of developments to appear this quickly in this case. This this is pretty crazy. So there is, let me see. There is another thread here that I found that had some interesting stuff. I also wanted to look into, who else was it? Yeah, it was this guy and somebody else. I'll figure it out in a minute while I play this from this TikToker that's figured some stuff out. Let's see, put this on 125.
Important to note that Sascha is telling the public that they do not need to be believed based on this testimony. And them sharing this testimony is to further push for the release of the files. And Sascha has offered to do a lie detector test and testify in front of Congress, which are all things that I think Sascha should be accommodated with. And I will preface this, like, just for transparency and acknowledgement of any unintentional bias I may have. I do have a couple of concerns about some of the comments made by the author of the Substack post, including the comment that she made in the first recording that went along the lines that if you question or ask questions about these allegations, then you don't really have integrity. And I don't think that's really a fair place to put the public in.
Yeah, that makes sense. One other thing that I wanted to say about the timelines not matching up that people were saying, something that I was thinking a lot about, especially in regards to Putin, people were saying that, you know, Putin couldn't have been involved at this point because he was only a KGB agent. But one thing I think that may be misunderstood here is some people get into the party because they're successful or they're a billionaire or they're in politics or something. But what if some people get into politics or become billionaires because they were at the party? You know what I mean? Like, what if, as a shady KGB agent, through knowing Epstein, Putin was able to rise through the ranks much quicker and become president? Very similar to how Trump was able to go from reality television show real estate developer to president twice. It's an you know what I mean? Like, I feel like people are automatically dismissing that a little bit too quickly for that reason, by saying that these people weren't far enough in their careers enough at this period of time. I don't think that everybody, I don't think everybody at the party got there because they were already at that level.
And I also don't think that is what Sascha was trying to communicate when Sascha stated that the public didn't have to believe the story if they didn't want to, but releasing the files would prove that Sascha's telling the truth. And again, that's not the fault of Sascha by any means. That's maybe just me being a little bit hypercritical, and I acknowledge that. And I also want to preface this by saying that we know that right now this is an incomplete testimony. This is not the full story. This is just the beginning of a story. We've been told more audio files are coming. We've been told there are a bunch of receipts coming, so I do anticipate those in the future. So here's some key pieces of information to know about the Sascha Riley situation. So Sascha Riley was born in 1973 and has shared paperwork showing that he was adopted in 1975 in Germany by a pilot named William or Bill Riley. And according to Sascha, Sascha's adoptive father worked as a pilot for Jeffrey. Sascha Riley is a decorated Iraq veteran and has been sharing on social media for quite a few years now, and recently sat down and shared testimony with a journalist on Substack. And Sascha has detailed that they were a victim of Jeffrey's operation from around ages 9 to 13, which would have been between 1978 and 1986.
If you want to listen to the whole recordings that he did, I have, a couple days ago, there was a live stream that I did that was about 3 hours long. We went through all of them on stream. We looked people up when they were mentioned and gave context when we could. So check that out if you haven't after this.
memories that Sascha recalls is when they were stationed at Fort Carson in 2008, and a fellow soldier was allegedly caught with explicit material of a child. According to Sascha, their commanding officer came directly to them, allegedly wanted to show Sascha this material because the child victim in the material looked strikingly like Sascha. Sascha has named figures including Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, and Clarence Thomas as being responsible for the consistent harm of many children, including Sascha. He basically claims that they were all co-conspirators within Jeffrey's ring in this 1978 to 1986 timeframe. Sascha claims that there is video footage of the aforementioned powerful figures and many other powerful figures harming children, and even audio and video recordings of children and animals losing their lives at the hands of these men and others.
So we have a lot of confirmation now that these videos exist to some extent. And there is at least record of people getting in trouble for having them in the military. And we all know that the Pentagon has a giant collection of that stuff, apparently for record keeping purposes. And, of course, which I doubt with them. But regardless, there are some records lining up there, and I think that when it comes to the types of parties that he described, at first it sounded really weird to me because it was very different than the kind of very fancy parties that were described from the other Epstein victims. So, it was described as like on farms, but I feel like there were possibly different levels, different types of events. Um, and then we found on stream the other night a video of essentially the news talking about this kind of event happening on a farm, kids in an underground bunker. I could look that up in a couple minutes because it's only a 1 minute clip, but I think it does work to confirm what he's talking about because those events, the ones that got busted, were in the part of the country that he was describing. Um, and I don't know if they talk about it in this video, but I think he lived on Trump Lane or something, Trump Street or something crazy. I'll look up the exact one, but I know in what the trailer park he grew up in, there was a Trump Street.
Powerful men. Sascha claimed that figures including Donald Trump harmed him physically in various ways. Sascha also claimed that Donald Trump would take the lives of small animals while Sascha watched in order to instill fear and force compliance. Sascha has shared.
That's the other thing about the animal torture thing. I'm not sure. I'll try to look for it. I don't know the exact link, but there's a compilation going around of all of the different weird ways that Trump has used dogs in like catchphrases or idioms or whatever. He says choked like a dog, which is not an expression that I've ever heard anybody use, and he uses that a lot apparently because there were a bunch of different clips of him saying that. And then it died like a dog is another one. I don't know if I've heard that. That doesn't seem but apparently he has on stage said all these twisted things that's when coming out of his mouth it seems like it should be kind of a saying, but it's not something people say.
That his CPS records and his medical records, as well as military records and Donald Trump's medical records, would all help prove that Sascha is telling the truth. One of the reasons Sascha says that Donald Trump's medical records will prove that Sascha is being honest is because of a story that Sascha recalled of when Sascha was about 10 years old. They were being harmed by Donald Trump, and at one point Donald Trump requested 10-year-old Sascha to do an act upon him. And instead of doing that, 10-year-old Sascha picked up a wooden tent stake from the corner of the room and put protection over it, then allegedly forcefully put it inside of Donald Trump, which caused him to become injured. And that is allegedly what caused Donald Trump to seek the long-term care of a gastroenterologist.
It's painful just to even like imagine it every
And
time.
have to permanently wear diapers. Sascha also shares how there were children around the same age who would be harmed at these festivals of sorts that were catered to the ultra wealthy. And according to Sascha, at these days-long festivals, children would be harmed and it would be filmed. Children's lives would be taken and it would be filmed. Children would fight until one of them passed away and it would be filmed. Animals.
And this sounds crazy, but these films do exist. It is a crime. There are people who go to jail for this. It's not an insignificant number, sadly, that there is a market for this, but apparently there is. I wonder if we could look up we could look up statistics on that in a minute.
Animals' lives would be taken. It's just all very graphic. Sascha even recalled that there was a fully staffed workforce who were paid to deal with the cleaning up of bodies, the transportation of children, ensuring food was catered for the ultra wealthy, janitorial services, and cleaning up. Like there was a whole staff who did all of that. And Sascha states that these festivals mostly occurred in Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, and Florida. And in the audio recording, Sascha recalled multiple instances where they saw other children's lives being taken. Sascha also stated that they believed that Donald Trump was a bigger player in this whole operation than Jeffrey, and it almost seemed as if Jeffrey was the one working for Donald Trump. Sascha also shared how the trauma that they endured as a child caused them to have the out-of-control behaviors in their youth, and because of this, Sascha recalled that Jane Goodall was called out to their foster care to work directly with Sascha. There are a lot more allegations, and they get a lot more graphic, and I do implore you to listen to the full audio tape so you have full context if you can stomach them. Like in a nutshell, those are some of the key allegations and things that were said.
Shit, sorry about that. I was muted. I found the video of Trump saying died like a dog.
He's dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. And he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer.
And then this one too has a couple. Yeah, he died like a dog. And I think choke like a dog was another one. Let's take a look at the let's take a look at the part 2 real quick. Because I think this has some of the other details that I was missing. No, not that one. Here it
you
is.
discussing the Sascha Riley tapes. First of all, it is true that Virginia
This is about the names and the timelines.
Frey did testify in a case against Ghislaine Maxwell. A man named Bill or William Riley worked for Jeffrey. It is also true that Bill Riley was called or supposed to be called as a witness in the same legal proceeding. And it is true that the name Bill.
Oh, is this audio? Okay, this one's better. All right, cool.
Riley comes up multiple times throughout the files that we have access to and Jeffrey's emails. Keeping that in mind, it is important to note that there was an attorney who worked for Jeffrey named Bill Riley, who is not the same man as Sasha's adoptive father. Second of all, it is true that Donald Trump did have a primary care doctor who was a gastroenterologist for many, many years, and his name was Dr. Bornstein. And Dr. Bornstein had his office raided during Donald Trump's first term, and shortly after, Dr. Bornstein passed away under very mysterious circumstances. Now, third of all, I want to talk a little bit about the timeline because I think that's where I personally have some questions. Not saying I don't believe Sascha. I'm not trying by any means to be negative or harmful to survivors in any way, shape, or form. All of my questions could probably be answered with clarity given within this timeline. I'm not trying to question the allegations that Sascha is making. I'm not.
1 minute. I did find that article that I wanted to bring up about the children held in the underground bunker. Let's see here. Because that will give some insight into what these parties kind of could, the ones that he described would be more like, because they're quite a bit different than the ones that are described by other survivors. Let's see if I could find a good one here. Let's go to this one since it's not that long.
The Bibb County Sheriff's Office says 10 children ranging in age from 3 years old to 15 years old are known to be victims in a child sex trafficking ring happening off of Aaron Drive. Sheriff Jody Wade believes that this all began in 2022, even though an investigation wasn't started until 5 months ago.
No child deserves this. That's the most horrible thing you can do, the power and control of it, the stealing the innocence of a child and the horrible victimizations they went through with these monsters.
The Bibb County Sheriff's Office released these pictures from inside of the bunker. You can see a bed with a dirty mattress and a few chairs, as well as a small chest of drawers with a kitchen appliance on top. Sheriff Jody Wade says the children were not kept permanently in the bunker, but the timing of how long they were in there at one time would vary.
It depends on what point in time the offenders had. Sometimes the children would be there, tied to a pole that was there, bound to a bed that was there, or in a chair that was there. Sometimes there would be multiple people that would come by and victimize these children on a nightly basis. I know God's forgiveness is boundless, but if there was a limit to it, I think we reached it.
According to the Bibb County Sheriff's Office, the investigation began in February after the Department of Human Resources received a claim of child abuse at a home on Aaron Drive.
This is a lot of things kind of line up with this of what he described. And I'm not saying that this was the same place. I'm saying that these networks typically operate in similar ways. It's like if you have one drug operation, it looks very similar to another drug operation. And when you're doing things underground, like and you have an organized crime element, it's just like a corporation where your shops look the same.
The Sheriff's Office discovered sexual abuse was happening in a partially underground storm shelter detached from the house, which is what investigators refer to as the bunker.
It was built for a good thing and used for a horrible thing.
Wade believes this case could have ties to the Serrano gang, a gang he says gets most of its money from child trafficking. According to the Sheriff's Office, the suspects could make up to $1,000 a night victimizing the children.
For the younger kids, I'm hoping this is a blurry memory because.
And like those people in the mugshots, like obviously they're not chilling on Epstein's island, you know what I mean? But there could be many layers to this as a business, there could be different levels of clientele that Sascha described the Trump Epstein ring as something that was much bigger than Trump and Epstein delivering young girls to rich people. That was one specific part of it, according to Sascha, but apparently there was a whole greater network that spanned the country.
Some of the statements of the children, they were unable to remember certain things, and then things would come to mind. And some of the older children, yeah, they'll carry this vividly for the rest of their lives.
Wade says the lead investigators on this case have been working nonstop since the abuse was discovered. He says they're all fathers themselves.
It's been heartbreaking. It's very sad. We don't want to see any children ever have to go through this. God puts us at the place that.
But yeah, let's get back to that timeline. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered to bring that in.
Putting any of the things that Sascha has alleged past these evil, disgusting men. I just want to make that like so clear. So like, let's talk a little bit of the timeline of it all. The timeline in which Sascha alleges that they were directly impacted by this harm from ages 9 to 13, which was 1978 to 1986. So where was everybody? 1978 to 1981, Jeffrey was working at Bear Stearns for Alan Greenberg. This is where Jeffrey first heard of Robert Maxwell, as Robert Maxwell had an account at Bear Stearns, but he did not meet Robert Maxwell until later. From 1981 to 1987, Jeffrey started his own intelligence firm and was working with clients around the globe. He was doing a lot of work abroad at this time. This is the era where Adnan Khashoggi, the Saudi arms dealer, was one of Jeffrey's clients. This is actually the era where Jeffrey made a lot of the intelligence contacts that he maintained until his passing. In this era, he made connections with defense contractor Douglas Lease, U.S. Attorney General John Mitchell, connections with Stephen Hoffenberg, who would go on to introduce him to Robert Maxwell. In 1987, he officially went on to work for Stephen Hoffenberg at Towers Financial Corporation, which later turned out to be one of the largest Ponzi schemes in American history. There's no record of Donald Trump and Jeffrey crossing paths or knowing each other during this time period. What was Jim Jordan doing in this era? And honestly, I could talk about Jim Jordan all day. I think he is a very scummy person, and I think it's very alarming that as an elected official he went to great lengths to try to downplay the horror of the Ohio State scandal, a school that he was an alumni of. And then 1978 to 1986 timeline, Jim Jordan was in high school for a good portion of that. If I'm not mistaken, Jim Jordan graduated from high school in 1982, and then he graduated from college in Wisconsin in 1986, then he went on to get his graduate degree at Ohio State in 1987. And I'm not saying that like this exonerates anybody, I am just giving you context of where everyone was during this time period. Then there is Andy Biggs. In 1978, Andy Biggs had just returned from his LDS mission and began college at BYU, and he would graduate from BYU in 1982, and then he would graduate with his law degree in 1984. So he was a college student and working his early career as an attorney.
And yeah, a lot of these people were allegedly in college at this time when when these allegations are supposed to have occurred. And like I said earlier, I do think that kind of matches up, because I remember from back in the day, the whole skull and bones thing with Bush and Kerry. And people used to say that they would have to like do messed up stuff in front of their whole fraternity. Like it was a fraternity kind of situation. And it would kind of keep them all bounded by their secrets. Yeah, a kind of form of hazing where they were bounded by secrets. And there is a possibility that there was some kind of fraternity that they were involved with that was doing all this sick shit that we don't know about. But that is just, a Hits Blunt thought.
During this time period, basically. And then there's Jane Goodall. What was Jane Goodall doing during this time period? During this time period and after, Jane Goodall was mostly based in Tanzania, where she spent most of her time enthralled in research and observing the chimpanzee community. Jane Goodall did start a youth advocacy program in 1991, and the first location was based in Tanzania. It wasn't like a troubled youth program. It was like a youth advocacy program having to do with nature and animals and immersing children and teens into the world of animals and nature. And to my knowledge, I've personally never heard of like Jane Goodall doing behavioral work with children. That would be new to me. I'm not saying
the Jane Goodall thing is quite interesting.
It did not happen, but I've personally never heard of her dabbling into like the pediatric behavioral care. And there's Lindsey Graham. During this time period, Lindsey Graham was mostly a college student in South Carolina. He graduated with a psychology degree in 1977 and then received a law degree in 1981. Then Lindsey Graham went on to.
After this, I'd also like to take a look at Threads and see what Sascha has been saying over the past day or so, because that's where they've been posting.
He joined the Air Force in 1982, and he was stationed mostly in Europe during his service until he left active duty in 1989. Clarence Thomas was another figure who was mentioned as someone who attended these parties, these festivals. In 1978, Clarence Thomas was working for the state of Missouri after receiving his law degree 4 years prior. From 1979 to 1981, Clarence Thomas worked at the U.S. Department of Education, may she rest in peace, under the Reagan administration. In 1981, Ronald Reagan appointed him the chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, where he served until 1982. Then from 1982 to 1986, Clarence Thomas served as a private attorney to government officials and politicians. So he was absolutely heavily involved in the government during this timeline of allegations. So then we have Donald Trump. Donald Trump was not a politician during this time period, but he could be considered one of like the ultra wealthy elites, and he obviously still is. As we know, Donald Trump's so I share those timelines with you not
Got
because
too
I don't
quiet.
believe powerful men or these powerful men did something awful to Sascha. And I'm sure
So yeah, some of the time, it's not that the timelines don't add up, it's just that they don't add up to a point where these people were extremely successful at the time. Which I don't think puts it out of the realm of possibility. That clip is getting a little bit quiet again for some reason, but I found more of the chokes like a dog thing, and it got so ridiculous that apparently the Washington Post in 2018, I think before Jeff Bezos bought it, said like a dog, Trump has a long history of using canine insults to dehumanize his enemies. And then there's another one here of the choke like a dog. Let's see. Is it the video? No. Well, we know he said it. Let's take a look at Threads and see what Sasha's been up to on there. This was the last post that I remember from the other day, but there's some stuff in the replies. What are people saying about the Jane Goodall thing? Plausible because a conference room in a hospital in Houston was named after her, while SR Sascha said he was in the hospital in Alabama. I have literally never seen. Well, I guess they're doubting, but I mean that is a weird coincidence. I mean, come on now. A wing of the hospital is named while he's that. That could also be him transferring a memory too. That's what I was saying earlier. A lot of times with abuse victims, things are jumbled up, so they can make mistakes, you know. That doesn't mean that what they're saying isn't true. Let's see. My birth father was in the Air Force. His name was Manuel Joseph Barros. That's why they're calling themselves Barros now. He and William Kyle Riley served together in Wiesbaden. My adopted dad was in the Army. So this is the video we just watched. And that confirmation, I think, is going to be the biggest one. The fact that that military sergeant remembers that video coming up as an issue. I don't know if there's anything new on here. We looked through some of these last night. Let's see if any mainstream media has picked up on this yet. All of it's social media. There's a whole oh, they removed it from the Epstein and they made people, the Epstein Reddit made people make an entirely different Reddit just for Sascha Riley. That seems a little bit weird. A lot of people are waiting on updates, it looks like. Let's see. Properties and geographic sleuthing. What is this? What is this house supposed to be? I'll look at the comments in a minute. I just want to see. New Albany, Columbus, Ohio. Let's see what this allegedly is. I've been looking at all the old geospatial files to identify owner records from prior to 2010. Specifically, I'm using my skills to try to locate possible places where events took place. From Sascha Riley's interview, I found a location in New Albany, Ohio. The property I marked, simply from the description and lack of a Google Street View layers, is pretty obvious to find. What was surprising was after I noted and looked into the listed owners, I found a Les Wexner mansion. What? I'm in the process of using my expertise in LiDAR or imagery to investigate the properties for any oddities. I'll update with some maps in a few days. What? This was 5 hours ago. So how did he find this house? Looking for old geospatial files. I don't know what that means. If you know what that means, let me know in the chat. From Sascha Riley's interview, I found a location in New Albany, Ohio. So this is apparently a Lex Wessner mansion when he ended up looking it up after tracking this somehow. That's insane. Wow. Let's see. I want to jump back into this conversation, see if I could skim anything here. It's not very good journalists or reporters if this isn't on their radar, don't you think? They're absolutely intentionally avoiding this story. Yet people are scared. I did see one comment that was reasonable that said that people are afraid that if this gets discredited, then it will discredit other legit stories. But I don't think that we're that. I think we're so deep in this that people realize that it is the president. So, of course, not everything that comes through is going to be legit, but everything that comes through is still worth investigating. You know what I mean? Especially if there's a human being attached to it that exists and is putting themselves out there and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna risk my whole life because it is you're risking your life when you're coming out with information like that." So I think a Lex Wessner mansion, and this was just like I said 5 hours ago. So this is quickly developing. If they can actually tie one of Lex Wessner's mansions to this story of Sasha, if he didn't have any way of knowing, that is pretty wild. Unless he looked up the address and described the place, I don't think like it just seems I'm trying to play devil's advocate and I can't even really do it for that specific issue. Um let's see what else we got. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. It's not that it's important to try to verify the things, but they're definitely going to be covering stuff up, and there is going to be that. But I still think investigating it is important. 1,200 victims. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them probably are scared. LiDAR will show if any backfilling has been done. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I wanna know how he says he did that too. That's why I'm gonna keep an eye on this thread here and see what the deal is. Uh, but yeah. Wow. Justice for Samantha, for Patricia, for Sarah. So that's the Patricia name again that you were asking about, I think, Rowdy, right? Um, who is Maria? Katie John. I remember hearing this, but I can't remember where. Same with the rumors of snuff, but before Substack interview, and I can't remember where. Do you remember where we learned more about Maria? So other victims have said that there was physical abuse involved as well, which which would go along with what they were saying. Um, with these like bare knuckle uh both children and adult brawls that apparently happened at this place. And there is no doubt that something that Sasha was at these places. The details might be jumbled, uh, and I think that's the thing that people are going to need to investigate and iron out. And they're responding on social media. I'm just looking through here to see if we could find anything else. But yeah, they're responding on social media and are offering to testify to Congress about Epstein. Let's see. Yeah, Maria and Katie Johnson. He threatened her with deportation. Oh, during I remember that one. Yeah. I can't believe like that thing being linked up to Wexner is insane. I really want to figure that out. Uh President Trump has been allegedly identified as a major client. Let's see. This was 3 days ago. I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. This is a good. I guess it's not a bad thing that they separated this out into its own Reddit because there's so many stories. At first, I was thinking like it was the censorship thing, and it might be, but it is actually easier to sift through at this point. There's and this is the Jane Goodall connection. Let's take a look at this. Goodall Programs co-sponsored. The Houston Psychological Association co-sponsored the recent appearance of Jane Goodall, the noted primatologist, at a program on mother-child bonding conducted at the Houston Museum of Natural History. A story in last week's Discovery on Goodall's appearance failed to report the association's role in the program. The program, the co-sponsor was West Oaks at Cypress Creek, a new psychiatric hospital. New psychiatric hospital opens, provides care for children. Okay. And I'm guessing that Sasha was in at this time. Goodall chimp studies useful. Goodall, in a speech Wednesday at the benefit, said that while animal studies can't be applied directly to humans, they can suggest other worthwhile research. She cited her chimp studies that found less protective mothers raised young less socially adept than others, and chimpanzees who grow up without mothers are later unable to mother babies themselves. Okay. Wow. I can see the connection here. So the thing we just read with the person who was skeptical in that thread, they said that Goodall is never known to work with humans. Well, right here, she's talking about like the bond that a mother has with a child. Sasha is adopted. I can 100% see Jane Goodall taking like an intellectual interest in the case of Sasha. That you know what I mean? It's not like you're going to do a study on him, but you're going to want to if that's something that you study, you're going to want to see how somebody outside of the typical control group behaves in certain situations, how they think, what they've been through. So perhaps he did have interactions with Jane Goodall because she was involved with this program, apparently. She was at least, let's see. She at least appeared there. So let's see what else is in this. There's a couple of other posts. Has been in town, house guesting with West Oaks at Cypress Creek Psychiatric Hospital. Is this a Cypress Creek in near Miami? I don't think so, right? Not Fort Lauderdale. No, I think it's a different one. The doctors were impressed with the similarities between chimps and humans when it comes to the mother-child bond. See? Like, um, I can totally see her having an intellectual interest in adopted children. As it turned out, Jane added a spontaneous move that kept it all from quiet, big staircase. I'm just looking through this for some interesting details. Oh, it was the Houston area. Okay. Oh, I missed your comment about what Jane Goodall and what Sasha said. They said that they behaved so animalistic that they brought her in to help. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that making sense. Um, did the CIA pay for the hospital? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, yeah, yeah. She was. I'm seeing the comments now. That makes sense. Yeah, and that is the thing about Katie Johnson and Maria. What happened to them? Did they go dark, or did something really messed up happen? Goodall compares chimp development with humans. So this is still talking about West Oaks. One element of therapy for such adolescents is to help them learn to use. Yep, that's pretty interesting there. Let's see. What's this? I think that might be it. Mormon Monarch. Is anyone familiar with Mormon Monarch? No. Jim Jordan, Ohio State connection. Jim Jordan claims to know nothing about the 177 male athlete victims of SA, which occurred while he was the head wrestling coach of Ohio State. Both Les Wexner and Epstein were on the board of trustees and also invested in a mansion together. Ohio State received millions of dollars worth of donations from billionaire Jeff Epstein and his associate organizations. What is this? Let's take a look.
Growing up in Ohio, everyone wants to be a.
I wonder if they're going to hit me with copyright for this. What is this?
Hey, you walk into a room and Doc tells me to turn the lights off.
Surviving Ohio State. Let's see. Let's look at the they're probably going to clap me for that, so I'm just going to look up the actual. It's only a trailer that's like a minute long and probably doesn't really say much anyway. Ohio State, Jim Jordan. Let's take a look. I wasn't aware of this. Any y'all aware of this one? This was apparently reported earlier a couple months ago, 2025. Apparently there is a Jordan Wexner connection, which is pretty crazy. Wow. Let's see. In new documentary, former Ohio State wrestlers say U.S. Rep Jim Jordan knew about Strauss abuse. Survivors of Dr. Richard Strauss say Ohio Republican Jim Jordan knew about the abuse and student athletes suffered, according to HBO's new documentary, Surviving Ohio State. Jordan declined to be interviewed for the documentary, but his name is frequently brought up by the former Ohio State wrestlers and a referee. The documentary came out last month. Over the years, Jordan has repeatedly denied any knowledge of the abuse. To say that Jordan never knew anything, that nothing ever happened, is a flat-out lie, former Ohio State wrestler Danny Ritchie said in the documentary. Strauss abused at least 177 victims between 1979 and 1996. Okay, this is within the range that they're talking about. During his time as a physician for Ohio State's athletic department and the university's student health center. According to, yeah, I'm not seeing a conflict with Jim Jordan, especially with this, because this doesn't only match up with the behavior, it matches up with the time frame too, of when you would be into weird stuff like that. And if you're into weird stuff like that, yeah, you're going to be in some backwoods kind of freak party like this, and, you know, maybe make connections that get you into Congress or Senate or whatever he is. What, Congress, right? Strauss retired from Ohio State University in 1998 and died by his own hands in 2005 when he was 67. Jordan was an Ohio State assistant wrestling coach from 1987 from 1995. So I find it interesting that a lot of, and I'm still like not sold on, I haven't made up my mind, but I'm saying the people who are being really skeptical are pointing to this fact that Jim Jordan was just an assistant wrestling coach at the same time, but he was an assistant wrestling coach who was covering up for massive abuse that was happening. So maybe, what's his name? Richard Strauss. Maybe Dr. Richard Strauss was at these events. Maybe he took Jim Jordan with him. I'm just speculating, of course, but it seems kind of realistic, right? Am I being crazy? Let's see. Yeah, and he had access to children. That's exactly right. That's a very good point. At one point in the documentary, Ritchie said that Jordan claimed, if Strauss ever did that to me, I'd snap his neck like a stick of dry balsa wood. In the documentary, wrestling referee Fred Feeney shared his experience with Strauss. He said that he told Ohio State wrestling coach Russ Hellickson and Jordan that Strauss was being a creep. Jim Jordan looked at me straight in my face and said, "It's Strauss. You know what he does." Jordan turned to politics after coaching, serving in the Ohio. I don't know why I had a problem with that. Ohio House of Representatives from 1995 to 2000 and the Ohio State Senate from 2001 to 2006. So yeah, like he wasn't in politics yet. But he was in creep business already. Former Ohio State wrestler Mike Stick also said that Jordan would help the Strauss abuse survivors. Really, Jim Jordan is a pit bull, and so I figured, why the hell would this guy step up for us? Let me see if I read that correctly. Said he thought Jordan would help. Okay. The documentary shows television clips of Jordan adamantly denying he knew of the abuse. I stood up to the FBI, Jordan said when pressed by NBC reporter. I've stood up to the IRS. So if I thought something were wrong and if I knew something were happening, I would have stood up for them. Unless you actually were also a creep. There is no truth in the fact that I knew any of the abuse, he said. I've talked to the other coaches and they don't know anything about it. Well, the survivors say that that's a lie. So, yeah, that's something I did not see. See, I think people were too quick to dismiss some of this. Because I do think that some of these things are lining up just because they weren't at the top of the top. I it is different from the description that other Epstein survivors have given. But that does not mean that there was not other things going on. And also, Epstein had things quite compartmentalized. It's just now that these survivors are coming forward and starting to share notes with each other that a lot of things are being discovered. And like I said, it's a whole different level of clientele that is being described at these kind of festivals, I guess, because he said that there was a band playing, it was outside at a farm, and that they would have the snuff films over here and the animal cruelty over there, and and then the fist fights on the other side. So it's definitely not a posh island. So, yeah, I think that was all of the main things. Let me check up on the chat here. Yeah, I think the Wexner's house thing is something that it was only 5 hours ago that person posted it, and they said that they're going to be doing some more research. So that's definitely something that we got to keep an eye on. See if I got anything else. But the Ohio State stories keep being squashed, covered up even. And yeah, Wexner was the Ohio Mafia guy. So let's look into this Richard Strauss guy on like a Wikipedia level. You know what I mean? Because even though like Wikipedia is quite a surface level thing, it still gives you the basics where it's like, where did they work? Where were their first jobs? Like, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes some very interesting pieces can kind of come into view from that. It just says the abuse scandal here. I'm not seeing, here it is, that he doesn't have his own Wikipedia page. I guess they didn't think he was, he deserved one. Received a medical degree from University of Chicago. And see, the thing that I'm looking for right now is potential mob connections that this guy might have. Because if he has mafia connections and he's in Ohio, then him and Les Wexner definitely knew each other. And if Jim Jordan worked under this guy while he was, at that time in college, then there's another compelling connection there. Strauss was hired as an assistant professor in the OUO College of Medicine in September 1978. Athletic department knew that he conducted unusually prolonged examinations on male athletes. Wow. Larkin Hall, let's see. A lot of this is about that specific. I mean, this has happened on so many like teenage sport things. I remember the one, what was it? What was the guy? The Penn State guy. I want to say Joe Paterno. Is that the guy's name? That was like 10 years, 15, maybe even. According to the note that he left on his passing, he had a significant escalating medical and pain problems. Yeah, I mean, we all know why he did that. Let's take a look. Just out of curiosity, nothing might come up, but let's look in the mafia. Nothing. All right. So let's look at organized crime. Strauss investigation, Ohio University. Let's look up what Lex Wessner, right? Yeah, that's Les Wexner. I always get it. Yeah. That's it. Let's see. Oh, what? 5 days ago. What? Hold up. Judge grants Ohio State abuse victims motion to use alternative means to subpoena Les Wexner. Ohio billionaire Les Wexner, who is being compelled by the House Oversight Committee to give evidence about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, also faces a subpoena in his home state to testify about another man accused of being an offender, former Ohio State University physician Richard Strauss. Okay. So this connects Epstein to Jim Jordan for sure. I don't know if we had any other connections between Jim Jordan and Epstein aside from Sasha's allegations. So let's see. Federal judge presiding over a lawsuit against OSU brought by former students who say that their alma mater failed to protect them when Strauss has granted their motion to allow Wexner to be served with a subpoena by email through his lawyer or via his bodyguards. What are they alleging? Let's see. The Strauss survivors filed a motion in November alleging that Wexner's security and lawyer had repeatedly thwarted their process servers. Attempts to deliver subpoena directly to Wexner that would have had him testify to turn over documents. What do they want him to testify about? Watson's ruling came to a week. Voted to subpoena Wexner over his ties to Epstein. We know that. House Oversight spokesperson said the subpoena had not yet been sent to Wexner. During the time period at the heart of the case when Strauss preyed upon hundreds of students, Wexner was one of Ohio State's top benefactors. Wexner has not been accused of any wrongdoing. They always have to say that so they don't get sued. Ohio State has been battling lawsuits since 2018 when a former wrestler named Mike Sabato went public with allegations that Strauss abused him with hundreds. Okay. Mr. Wexner's sworn testimony is essential to understanding what university leadership knew and how. Okay. Wexner and Epstein in an undated photo. So that's the lawyers of the plaintiff have also deposed other prominent Ohioans with ties to OSU like Rep. Jim Jordan. I mean, I'm surprised nobody's talked about this in regards to let's see. Hold on. Am I showing let me show the screen here. Right here. Judge grants Ohio State abuse victims. Ohio billionaire is being compelled to speak on this issue with Ohio State. So there's quite a connection here. And I guess this is the Richard Strauss guy. I did not expect to see that. Let's see what the...
Tom Lissy wearing his Ohio State class ring, but it's a constant reminder of some of his darkest days.
But I can tell you that it's going to go back.
So the title of this is Ohio State Abuse Survivors Call for Les Wexner Subpoena in New Federal Lawsuit. This was 1 month ago. So this was before Sascha Riley's tapes went viral, or the interviews went viral, but after they were recorded.
Back in my dresser drawer.
That's what I keep. You don't put it on too often.
No, I don't. And I don't wear Ohio State gear either. It's just I can't do it.
A small but determined group of Dr. Strauss's sexual abuse survivors bravely standing in front of the OSU Board of Trustees. Gary Avis told me he suffered decades of alcohol and drug
Oh, I'm catching up on the chat now. I gotta go back and forth between the screens. I'll look up for it for the next thing.
abuse from his trauma.
For me, this ruined my dream of going to Ohio State, being on an athletic team.
A new federal lawsuit filed this week, reviving questions about who knew what and when during Strauss's 20 years at OSU. Michael DiSabato, the very first to bring the abuse to light in 2018.
Been 7.5 years of dealing with mental health, making sure that I've stayed on a positive course.
This newest lawsuit seeking to subpoena prominent businessman and former university trustee Les Wexner, raising questions about whether he had any role in covering up abuse or why attorneys say they've been unable to reach him at all. Trustee Pat Tiberi calls the history of sexual abuse terrible.
Is there a concern from the board that Les Wexner has not been present in legal proceedings?
This is a legal matter. We have attorneys, there's a federal judge involved, and there's little I can say about it.
OSU says Wexner is the largest donor to the university, tossing them more than $200 million. Wexner is represented by the same legal firm trustee chair John Zeiger founded.
You think there's a conflict of interest there?
There's little I can say because this is a legal matter.
Zeiger not speaking with the media as tensions rose after the meeting.
What am I looking up for? I'm looking, but I can't find it. The Simeon, is that what you're talking about? Put it in the chat again. Sorry, I'm actually looking now. I was trying to read, and let's see. J.D. Vance, Les Wexner on the board of trustees at Ohio State. Yeah, so that is a major connection. Let's see. Yeah, Simeon. I was just looking that up. Simeon. Dr. Richard Strauss. Simeon, let's say. I'm not seeing that in any of the search results. Was there somewhere I should have been looking for that? Let's see, doesn't this dovetail? Simeon Mogilovich. All right. Let me check it. I'll spell it wrong, but it'll correct me. Yeah, there it is. 2 months ago, let's see. See what this says. This is just the top ranked thing here. I don't think that this is related. Scenes from an arraignment, billionaire art scion Hilly Namad and pals in $100 million Russian mob gambling case. Okay. And this guy's connected to Jim Jordan or the other guy we were looking at? Or Lex Wessner? He was the most wanted list and then forced to get removed. This is suspicious that Dr. Bornstein died in 2021 because of unknown causes. His relationship soured with Trump. Yeah, I do want to, that was something I definitely wanted to look into. Dr. Bornstein's mysterious death. What was the deal with that? The place and cause of death was not disclosed. Any details were given? And it is weird timing for sure. Was it before or Trump got after Trump got out of office? If it's 2021, I guess it was after. But I mean, that doesn't really mean much. The cause and location of his death were not disclosed. That is so weird. Huh. Yeah, that is definitely a strange one. They wanted Bernstein dead to keep him from speaking out about death, and Trump's goons stole the medical records. Interesting. He's Ukrainian but works for the Russian mob. And Trump is definitely very deep in the Russian mob. And I'm not just saying that as the whole Russia thing or whatever, but like seriously, in the real estate business in New York, in the 90s, the Russian mob was heavily involved. They still are, but they used to be more so. And it really does line up. Let's see. Let's finish this up real quick and see if they say anything more about Lex Wessner.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Later in the day, Wexner's legal team told ABC6 they've spent months asking plaintiffs why they believe Wexner is involved. They say the plaintiffs have not answered that question.
How a man who was served on the Board of Trustees from 1988 to 1997, was chairman of the board at a point 2 years during that time frame, had to have knowledge, you would think had knowledge.
Ohio State accepting accountability to victims in recent years, an apology that comes with $60 million in compensation to nearly 300 victims. But survivors want all potential parties to be held accountable, one subpoena at a time.
It's a systemic problem here at Ohio State, and it's ongoing, and it doesn't go away.
Reporting on your side.
So yeah, I think that's pretty wild. So we got Wexner. What about Clarence Thomas and Epstein? Was there any connections to there or any connections to Les Wexner? Oh. Okay, I know. He's first time disclosing controversial 2019 Bali trip with billionaire Harren Crow. I don't know about that one. Wrong one. So not a direct. Let's check Les Wexner. Lex Wessner. I keep on saying Les Wexner. Clarence Thomas, Les Wexner. No. Always worth. Who was the other one? You say Jim Jordan, Clarence Thomas, Donald Trump, and there was another one, wasn't there? It was Biggs, right? What was it? Jim Biggs? Or it's something Biggs. I always forget that guy's name. Oh, Lindsey Graham as well. I'm pretty sure Lindsey Graham knows Les Wexner. Oh, yeah, there was one thing I wanted to check out, too, before I signed off. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. But I want to check out EpsteinSecrets.com to check out Michael Cohen, because this is just the a very easy way to search the Epstein files and who is in them. So far, the Epstein files so far. Of course, there's many more people that have many more entries, but so he's so far in the things that have been put out, he has 433 mentions or 145. I don't know why it said 400. Michael Cohen appears in 145 mentions across 118 documents, primarily in news emails and government records. Okay. Most references are unrelated to Epstein. The name appears in various contexts, including Brett Jeff of Cohen and Grisser, Maxwell's lawyer, Oscar producer Bruce Cohen. So I don't think this has not been updated, because he does have at least one significant with this Rule 35 thing. Multiple unrelated individuals named Cohen occur. So, yeah. Did we look up Jim Jordan as well? Let's look up Jim Jordan. Midas Touch didn't drop him for no reason. Did they drop him? They should. Really have no idea how depraved. Ogden said something about bogus complaint on the Tara Palmieri show. Been trashing her ever since. Yeah, he has. I'm checking up on the chat now. Andy Biggs, that was it. That was it. Thank you for that. Andy Biggs, Les Wexner. What's this? This is the top. Oh, okay. Andy, oh, all right. I don't know why that's at the top of the search. That's interesting. Congressman Biggs. All right, so let's take a look at Andy Biggs and Jim Jordan on here. Right? Andy Biggs not mentioned yet. But that could be he's held back, you know, in the Jim Jordan not in here yet either. Lindsey Graham. Is it A or E? Yep, it's E. He's only mentioned 7 times in the thing so far. But they only this isn't necessarily indicative of anything because the most damning documents probably haven't even been released yet. But yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, I think that's all I got for today. Yeah, I do think they are, definitely. They kind of came out of nowhere, Midas, and just blew the hell up. I don't really watch much of their content. Occasionally I see a clip or two. But it is kind of sus that they had him on the payroll for sure. But yeah, I'm going to be back here at 10 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Probably have some updates on these stories and more. Check out the full video essay that I just put out. The Cold War was World War III. It's my first major video essay on the channel. It basically talks about kind of a different way of looking at history that makes it make a lot more sense, where the time that we're told was the Cold War was actually the Third World War. It was directly tied to everything that came before it. It reshaped the world into what it is today. And I think there's some interesting pathways in there that people haven't put out there that much. I did a lot of searching around before I put it out there, and I didn't really see much like that. The other thing is definitely give a subscribe. I see a lot of new people in there tonight. It definitely helps out. I'm just getting this channel started after many years of writing books and hiding away from the camera. Now I'm figuring this is the way to do things. And speaking of books, my most recent book is a memoir called Paper Squares and Purple Stars, My Life as a Rave Outlaw. It is about my time in the music industry when I was throwing raves between like 2008 and 2012. There are some interesting stories in there for sure. I think I'm going to go through the book a little bit in the future, like maybe on a weekend or something like that, one of those weekend nights where we chill. And because I have a free version online that has a bunch of pictures and videos from the events that I talk about in the book. And I think that could be interesting to go through. Yeah, I'm in East Coast. I'm in, I live in the middle of the woods, but I'm like right between Baltimore and Philadelphia. And when I was throwing parties back in the day, I was in Baltimore mostly, Philadelphia sometimes, DC sometimes. I did a few shows, like as far south as North Carolina, as far north as like New Hampshire. But most of it was in the DC, Baltimore, Philly region. But yeah, I got that, and it's all right. It's not bad, Maryland. Um, but yeah, I think I might go through some of the visual stuff because that is kind of cool with the book. Yeah, I occasionally, I think I did one or two things out in Anne Arundel County for sure. Um, yeah, yeah, it's called Paper Squares and Purple Stars: My Life as a Rave Outlaw. Like I said, I have a at hive.blog/John Vibes or at John Vibes. I can't remember if the at symbol is in there. Is where I have it for free. And I just basically did a different blog for every chapter. So I did it over time. So at the very top of the list, like it starts at chapter 35. So you have to like scroll all the way down to find chapter 1 and then go up. But it has a bunch of pictures from me back in the day when I was throwing parties and just the shows. And, it was one of those stories that ends with, us getting busted and everything. And that was one of the main things that pushed me into activism was our club getting shut down. So yeah. But anyway, I got a couple other books that'd be cool to check out. But yeah, it'd be fun to go through those blogs online on stream. And yeah, thanks for joining me tonight. Check out that video, and I'm working on the next one, which is about government drug trafficking. And I am loving DaVinci Resolve. It is a little bit more complicated to work with, but the things that I'm able to do with it are so much better, and I'm really excited about being able to learn a new skill there. So yeah, definitely please hit the subscribe. I'm trying to get a 1,000. Very small channel starting out all over again after many years. But I appreciate y'all joining me, and have a good night. Peace.